Television is not the truth. Television is a goddamn amusement park. Television is a circus, a carnival, a traveling troupe of acrobats, storytellers, dancers, singers, jugglers, sideshow freaks, lion tamers, and football players. We're in the boredom-killing business. So turn off your television sets. Turn them off now. Turn them off right now. Turn them off and leave them off. Turn them off right in the middle of the sentence I'm speaking to you now. Turn them off.
Stop them. An idea whose time has come cannot be stopped by any army.
Welcome to Eradicating Programmed Ignorance, brought to you by the Liberty Beacon Project and broadcast on TLBTV. Tonight, we have a return guest, and we have a special reason for having this gentleman back on. Excuse me, although we really don't need any special reason to have this gentleman on. He always has something great to talk about, and the last show we did with this gentleman was about Sequest Kids and Advanced America Foundation. Let me explain something to everybody out there, okay? What we are accomplishing today only lives on, only progresses, only modifies American society if our children are part of the scenario, if our children are taught, if our children are cared for, if our children are given the truth, if what they learn in school is based on fact, not on fiction. When we talk about how rich America is, when we talk about our massive resources, the coal, the oil, the iron ore, all of the things that makes the industry in America potentially great, all of the things that makes our society potentially great. Nothing compares to the one resource that every nation depends on for its continuances and its continued greatness. And that resource is our children. We discussed that our children today being taught in a Common Core scenario are being taught that being vanilla is the way it should be. Everybody should be average. If you excel, you don't get any more notice than the children that are failing, which immediately robs you of that instinct, that drive to succeed. Right? These are things that not only harm our children, but 20 years from now, this is going to harm the American society beyond anything we can believe. So this is our most precious resource. When we talk about Advanced America, when we talk about Sequest Kids, we're talking about an organization that teaches our children to socialize, that teaches our children a skill, that teaches our children success, that teaches our children that being average is not the best thing that they can do. So when you talk about organizations like this, you are talking about organizations that support the most critical and valuable resource this and any country has, and that is our children. Where do I have this wrong, Rebecca?
You don't. I think that our children are the most important thing, and they are our future. And with that, I think it's very important that we have people in our society right now that is educating our youth in the correctness of history and equipping them with the skills to be able to make sound decisions and be able to stand up and embrace the truth and then find ways to make sure that it continues on. And with us, Steve Gronka from Advanced America Sequest Kids, who also has underneath his umbrella, We the Kids, focuses on different parts of things in society to equip the kids with things that are necessary to instill the correctness that is so needed in history and equipping the kids with the skills that they need to continue to keep that foundation intact. So with us, I'd like to bring on the show none other than Steve Gronka. Welcome.
And Steve,
Rebecca.
Before you say anything, let me tell everybody who may not know, but most people would, Stephen is a partner and a member of the TLB family and has been for several years. So this is a gentleman whose word is always trusted and valued in this project. All right, Steve, segue in here. Say something to us. Say hi.
All right, Roger. I appreciate that introduction. Sequest Kids, in combination with We the Kids, gives us a structure to build character in kids that will allow them to stand up and be heard. And with that combination, the kids learn what their God-given rights are, which are enumerated in our Constitution. And they also have the confidence to stand up and be heard. And we're lacking that quite a bit in the kids coming through the school system today. So in order to get these qualities in motion within the kids, we have two really great programs. One is the kids build their own 10-foot boat in 2 days or less. That includes all special needs kids as well. They build the paddles, oars, mast, sail, sail rig, and outboard motor bracket. They get boating safety trained and become part of an international group of kids that have all built their own boats. And then we have organized activities for them, in addition to them learning how to have seamanship and handle the boats. So we then have the kids do events like paddle races, rowing races, sailing races, fishing tournaments, overnight campouts, community service. The kids do public speaking, so they're talking to PTAs, town councils, civic associations, telling people why they're building boats, why it's important to them, and what they're doing with them. Kids go to boat shows, and the public comes up and they see a boat and they say, well, what's this? So now all of a sudden the child has to explain themselves and be understood. Isn't that a novel concept? Speaking with, communicating a message so that it's understood by the receiving party. So communication with understanding, very critical in society in general. And the kids really aren't taught that. In fact, I didn't even learn that until I took a course on it in college, senior year. So not one of those things that's ordinarily addressed as kids come through the education system.
Well, Steve, it's really important, too, to point out that, for example, you have dedicated and have a passion in your life to equipping the kids and instilling these values in them. And without people like you and the support that you get from other people, whether it's volunteerism or whether it's financial contributions to the project, it is critical that that foundation, the volunteerism and the financial components are there. Otherwise, the children would not have the tools that they need to get all of what you have to offer and truly embrace it.
Well, I've got to tell you, we have, and I will include in this show the link to the last show we did, and this is basically a continuance of that. And we told everybody we would have you back soon. But the one thing that everybody needs to understand, and Rebecca just laid the foundation for that, okay, is that you can't do this work, this critical work, okay, if you don't have the funding to do so, all right? And we all know there are times when people make promises and they don't keep them, but that doesn't stop you from having to do the things you do. Let's say you've got something set up to do, in Key West, Florida, and the date's approaching, and people who promised to give you funding to help with that particular, outing or whatever, they fall back on it, or something happens and they can't do it, all right? As much as what you're doing is building confidence in these children, how much do you think it, harms them and that process if all of a sudden you call up and say, we're not going to be there, you can't do this, you can't build a boat, you can't do fishing, you can't be in a boat race, you can't do this, you can't do that. The confidence and the socialization that you're teaching these children, and the ability for them to think that they're doing something special, okay? You told us stories on the last show where these kids were just bursting with pride. I dare you to walk into a Common Core class today and find any child that is literally bursting with pride. So you're filling a slot that nobody else is. So let's talk about funding, because I'm going to tell you right now, there are two, and I mentioned this to you before we jumped on the recording here. The two websites that we're going to put your Sequest Kids Advanced America Foundation ads on are going to be the Liberty Beacon and TLBTV. These have a very large following between the two websites, and you're not going to get a small ad at the sidebar. You're going to have an ad that runs almost the full length of the top banner on both websites, and it's going to be there for a minimum of 30 days. That's the importance of what you're doing to Rebecca and I in the Liberty Beacon Project. So let's talk about how people can donate, so on and so forth. Don't so much worry about what we're going to do, because before the end of this week, those ads are going to be at the top of both of those websites. Big ads. I'm talking about big damn ads, okay? So let's talk about the funding aspect of this. What do you need? Why do you need it? And where else can they go to donate? And those links will also be incorporated in this show when it's published on Tuesday morning.
Well, the primary things are we need to have enough funding to keep our office space available. We're in a very nice location in Hallandale Beach, Florida, and it's ideal for bringing people in to have meetings. Very accommodating facility, very beautiful facility, and it's just a great place for people to come in and meet with us. And we need to be able to keep the rent paid and keep the utilities paid. So that runs us. Now, normally a commercial space is pretty expensive, but we have such an assortment of facility here for the small price of $16.50 a month. We have this location. So definitely need the funding for that. Roger, looks like you're going to say something.
Well, again, that's one aspect, okay? You also, the kids don't pay for the wood to build their boats. The kids don't pay for the tools they use. The kids don't pay for your travel to and from the site. The kids don't pay for the time, excuse me, and you don't do everything within driving distance of your home. So there's hotel bills, there's food, so all of this comes together. These are things that, look, everybody watching this show, and again, I strongly urge you to look at the last show. Listen to some of the stories, and I hope you'll relay at least one or two of those heartbreaking, actually heart-swelling stories that you did last time we did the show. Listen to these stories. Realize the value of look, you all know we only have 3 ads on every single one of our websites, and we're talking about 15 proprietary websites, almost 24 partner websites in the TLBTV project. 3 ads, and that's for healthcare products, because we are huge on healthcare. We are not a commercial organization. Why are we pushing to get funding for Advanced America and Sequest Kids? Look, let me explain something. You click on that ad on the Liberty Beacon, we don't get a penny. You go immediately to Sequest Kids, and that's where you make your donation. None of that goes to us. And if that was the case, we wouldn't even put it up. This is not about the Liberty Beacon. This is about our children. I can't think, Stephen, of a more appropriate, of a better, of a more shining star of a project that people can, hey, send $5. Hey, send $10. If you can, send $100. But think of what Stephen and this organization are doing. If our children are not taught well, if our children don't have confidence, if our children don't know the truth, the future of America is dismal. And that's a fact. Where have I got this wrong, Steve?
No, exactly right. The ways that people can donate, they can go on our Facebook page. There's a donation button there, and they can go on our website, and there's a donation button there. And then soon there will be the link on the TLB, and people will be able to see that and link to the donation button. So it's essential to give these kids the opportunity to grow in the way that they can when they build these boats and when they learn about our history and all the heroes that we had in the making of this country and how advanced the thinking was, because this, they call it the grand experiment in government, America, because here it's a republic, not a democracy. So the rights of everyone are protected. And our kids learn that. So it isn't the mob rules, and however the majority votes, that's how things are going to go. It's you have a set of rights that everyone has, regardless of what status they are in the society or what level they occupy within the hierarchy of society.
Or what color their skin is.
Exactly.
Well,
exactly.
Let me jump in here for a second again, because sometimes I think you're just a little bit too modest, okay? What people, again, need to understand here is we have programs out there that teach our children how to use tools. We have programs out there that show our children how to compete in a fashion that is, good showmanship, all right? Good sportsmanship. We have programs out there that teach our children about the history of this country, and you're absolutely right. These children need to know that this is a republic in which the rights of the individual are protected, not a democracy where a small majority can rule over a large minority. But when we talk about Advanced America Foundation and Sequest Kids, you blend it all together. These children build a boat together. What does that teach them? Cooperation, socialization. What does that teach them? How to use a hammer, how to use a drill. What does that teach them? Pride in their workmanship. What does that teach them? Sportsmanship, competition. Okay, what does that teach them? It teaches them why that's so important in a country like this. So you're not this project or this project, you're this project, okay? It's all encompassing, and I can't think of a better way to get these points across to our children than to put them all together in one scenario, shake it well, and let it roll.
Amen. Yeah, in fact, one really shining example of how confident the kids get, we've had kids that have testified before the U.S. Senate and the House of Representatives about boating and water safety. Now, can you imagine a child getting up in front of those two august bodies and explaining what boating and water safety are all about, why we need it, how important it is? Mm-hmm. Yeah, the level of confidence that the kids get is astonishing. It just goes through the roof. They literally think they can do anything. So combining that with their understanding of how this nation was founded, the principles on which undergird everything that we have, just makes them the best kind of citizen that we can have in this country. You want people that understand how things are supposed to operate, and then when they see that it may not be going that way, have enough confidence and backbone to stand up and say, hey, wait a second, that's not how it's supposed to be.
Roger.
Hitler said, just let me slip this in. I know you want to talk, Rebecca. I apologize. Hitler said, okay, let me write the textbooks and I will control this country in one generation.
Yeah.
Okay, this is what our children are being exposed to today. It is your organization and organizations like it that will be the saving grace of our children, and our children are our future. Please go ahead, Rebecca.
Well, I really like the tagline, Make America Great Again, but I've got to tell you, when you are developing like Steve is, it's with what you're doing, Steve, it's making America great again.
Yep, amen. And one of our taglines is building bridges through education. So
I love
bringing
it.
people together and not dividing people, and learning all these skills together and working together, as Roger said so eloquently, working together, cooperation, teamwork. The
You've also stated on several occasions, and I'd like to put a little bit more of the spotlight on this, that you have had children who are handicapped, children who can't walk, or children who have learning disabilities, or children, and they have come and not really felt that they could be involved as much as the other children. But when you are done with them, when your project is done with them, they have found a whole new side of their self and a whole new confidence that nobody else is going to give them, okay? In a society like we have today, again, we're talking Common Core. Again, we're talking child welfare services, which to me is one of the most corrupt organizations in this country. And what we have are children who are handicapped, who are told they are handicapped, who are told there are things they're not going to be able to do. And it is beaten into them over and over and over again. Well, you can't do that. Or you realize with your handicap, you won't be able to do that. Or don't try to do this because you're not going to succeed at it. How many of those children did you literally walk up to the boat or the pile of wood and steer them into whatever they could do to help, and then tell me and Rebecca and our audience about the look on their face when they were done, when they realized that they were not as handicapped as they had been, I don't know, told over and over and over again they were.
Right, exactly. Yeah, we have such astonishing accounts of kids and the impact of the program. Sequest Kids, in 28 years of doing Advance America Foundation and Sequest Kids, and then working the last 5 years with We the Kids, I have never seen anything change the life of a child so much as them building a boat and learning how to use it. And in fact, the impact on the adults that help is possibly even equal to what happens to the kids. And just as an example, we were at the Children's Hospital at Montefiore in the Bronx in New York City. They wanted us to build, 5 boats for a Christmas party. So they put us in the lobby of the hospital. Now, it was accounted to me that the president of the hospital is this guy, 6'4", totally coiffed and manicured, like the $3,000 and $4,000 suits, everything perfect, silver hair, the total imperious leader. So we start building. We had tarps spread everywhere on the lobby floor in the hospital. So we took over the lobby. We have all of our parts out there and a mess of kids running around with hammers, glue guns, paintbrushes. So about 2 hours into building the boats after we start, I noticed one of the volunteers at the hospital looked up, and I'm thinking, they must see the president of the hospital. There was 2 flights of steps coming down from the second level of the hospital. So I looked up, and sure enough, there was the president standing at the top level of the staircase. So he starts walking down the staircase, and he's looking back and forth. And then the other people all noticed that this one volunteer was looking up, and they all looked up almost simultaneously and gasped because they knew, like, here's this totally perfectly coiffed leader who hates to see anything out of place, and now he sees his whole lobby covered with tarps, wood parts, and kids running around with hammers. And he hits the landing at the top of the first flight of steps, and he's looking back and forth, and he says, "This is the greatest thing I've ever seen. I want the hospital to get behind this and make sure it happens in the community." Yeah, it was.
I don't doubt that.
But then we also had the chief commander of the United States Power Squadrons. He had been invited as the guest of honor to the Winterfest Boat Parade in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Now, Winterfest is probably the premier boat parade for Christmas anywhere in the country. it gets national television coverage, the whole thing. So when he found out that we were building boats at the Children's Hospital at Montefiore in the Bronx in New York City, he canceled. Well, he was already there. He told the people at Winterfest, look, I have something more important going on up in the Bronx in New York City. I'm going to have to leave. So he left. The guest of honor leaves the Winterfest boat parade and comes and helps kids build boats.
That's awesome.
At his retirement, they do the retirements at the National Assembly of the Power Squadrons. So he's in front of the national body of the Power Squadrons, and he's giving his retirement speech. And he said, one of the two life-changing things in his life, one was Sequest Kids and helping kids build boats.
That's awesome.
Now, I don't know what his wife had to say about that, but...
Okay, but you know something, that's something that, happened in private, and if he's still alive, then obviously she didn't think it was too bad. Look, right. We're about done here. I'd like you to take a minute or two, and again, let's talk about the need for funding. If it was anybody else, if it was something that was commercial, if it was something that was not as important to the future of this country as our children are. Again, everybody listening to this, we can't emphasize it too much. And if you think I'm putting too much emphasis on it, you're watching the wrong show. All right? Our children are the future of this country. And if they are not brought up with that ability to feel pride, with that ability to compete properly, with that ability to feel that they can do anything if they truly set their mind to it, with that ability to socialize with their peers in a fashion that's cooperative, not constantly argumentative. These are the things you teach. This is where you need to drop your change, even if it's $1, even if it's $5. So let's talk, wrap this up, Steve, but let's wrap it up with telling people what they're going to be donating to and how they can donate. And again, one more time I'll mention, by Friday of this week, there will be 2 big banners, one on the Liberty Beacon, our flagship website, and one on TLBTV where this show airs. And you will have the entire top banner of both websites for a minimum of 30 days.
Woohoo!
Yeah, the key thing is we've been in operation since 1989. So we have 28 years of service behind us. And we've tested about everything that you can imagine to motivate kids to want to study and to get involved in things and build the skills that you've been talking about. The number one thing by far, not even a close second, is for them to build a boat and learn how to use it. And I think it's because when you talk to people, almost everyone has fantasized about being on a boat at some point in their life. And especially if they're just laying back and the sun's beaming down on them and a gentle breeze is blowing over them and they're bobbing gently up and down on the little waves and they're at total peace with the world. And they just feel a total freedom. And I think it becomes such a strong subconscious image that that's what makes the impact when these kids can build that boat in 2 days or less. And they realize that fantasy through their own effort, and it just totally changes them. It totally changes them. And like I said, also the adults too. So the key thing is that without the funding, this can't go forward. And we're in a crisis mode right now because this past year, a number of our biggest donors had problems of one sort or another. One person that gave us 3 $25,000 donations in the past had committed to another one. He died just before he could make his donation. So, we have some comeback road to go on here to try and get back to a point where we can make up for those losses. So people can go on the website, do the donation button there. They can go to the Facebook page, do the donation button there. They'll be able to go to the TLB sites and see how they can link to donation buttons. And we need that help. We just need that help. And the thing that we've seen in the past is the big names get the support because everyone knows who they are. So for us, it's like we really have to work overtime to try and convince people that, hey, we're worthwhile too, even though we're small. And even though we're small, I haven't seen anybody that gets more out of a penny than we can. We stretch it so far it's beyond belief. So,
and I don't know of anybody who puts all of the pieces together, culminating in a total life experience for these children. The education, the comradeship, the socialization, learning the skills, increasing their level of pride. All right, Rebecca, closing statement from you, please.
You know, I was looking at the time, and there's so much more that you could share, Steve. And
He'll be back.
Yes. And I think that you really, the last couple of shows really have brought to light some major things that your organization is doing, and it needs to be taken seriously. I want to thank you, first of all, for dedicating your time and energy and your life to equipping our children out there, our future. And I want to encourage everyone who is, one, concerned about America, two, loves children, and three, looking for something to get involved with, that they get involved with Advance America, Sequest Kids, and We the Kids. I'm really supportive of everything that you are doing. And again, everyone out there, I just encourage you to get involved.
Steve, if I had $1 million, you'd have at least half of it right now.
all right. I'll tell you what, Roger, it doesn't stop with us either, because one of the ways that we raise money is a fee to train organizations how to do this, so they can do it on their own as an in-house project with their own people.
I love it.
Worry about paying the full expense of us to go on the road every time they want to do the project. There are some groups that do that, but most people would rather be able to do it on their own, in their own territory.
Absolutely. All right. Well, Steve, it's always great to have you here, and you will be back again. We might not be talking about Sequest Kids or Advance America, because what most people don't understand is that you are a very, very well-researched, liberty-minded individual, and your conversation in those directions are every bit as detailed and in-depth as your conversation about Advanced America Sequest Kids. So we will have you back soon, my friend. It's always a pleasure. Rebecca, I got to tell you something. This show would not be this show without Rebecca. And for anybody who doesn't know, and I guess you've been hiding under a rock if you don't know, Rebecca has her own show called Rebecca Sounds Reveille. I strongly encourage you to watch her shows. You can watch all of her shows on TLBTV.com. And, of course, Eradicating Programmed Ignorance, which is where we're at. So for everybody watching, we do appreciate you. I strongly suggest, as Rebecca and as Steve said, if you really care about our children, if you really care about the poor education they're receiving today, if you really care about the future of America, which is what our children are, this is a shining example, a gold star project. Please donate. We thank you all for watching. This has been Eradicating Programmed Ignorance, brought to you by the Liberty Beacon Project and broadcast on TLBTV. Y'all have a real good night.